Well, thank you very much. I'm going to try to break this down because the mystery which surrounds trade in extractive industries is the cover that hides the serious governance issues that we have. So you can explain from dawn to dusk about whether it's swapping or whether it's maximizing profit. But if the citizens don't know what you're selling, how much you're selling, and who you're selling to, there would always be suspicion. As the famous Glencore case, I'll talk about it if you give it the time, shows. So, I mean, in certain cases, you've had discounted fuel from between 8 to 30% discount. What drives this? What drives this? And I must at this point pause to salute those who chose this title, Transparency at the Crossroads. Since the beginning of EITI, with people like my mentor here, Peter Eigen right there, the idea was to bring together what we call the magic triangle: the state, the oil private companies, and the civil society. And the first part was to have confidence building. It is true that, you know, the people complained that EITI was captured by the civil society and also the state. But we have come a long way. Confidence has been built. We are over 50 participants in there. So I think that's a great thing. But now we have to go to the next stage and look closely at the governance issues that are raised. I just mentioned briefly Glencore. But in the Glencore case, Glencore is a sponsor company of EITI. 4 countries: Ivory Coast, Cameroon, Nigeria, and the DRC were involved in this. They are all member countries. So I think these are practical issues that we need to look at. I don't know if you want me to give you an insight about the Glencore case or you want to ask another question, but I think at the back of this, it doesn't matter what details or figures you give, it has to be transparent. It's good to say that people are accountable, but accountability is the flip side of the coin of transparency. If I don't know, if I don't see, I can't ask. And it is very important. If we can have a system that permits people to know exactly what's happening, then you're accountable. And also, there's a tendency in our countries is the fact that automatically all matters concerning oil is lodged in the presidency. Okay? So it is from the presidency that everything happens. The thing is, if you have an EITI committee in your country that has all the goodwill, there is very little you can do when the guy comes from the presidency and sits there and talks about what they do. So I think, yes, the only way to find out about the fluctuation and regularity of this different pricing trends is to put some light on what happens. And I think, you know, we all know that. I mean, last year the World Bank says 2.2 trillion was in corruption. $2.2 trillion. Okay? In the report of the high-level panel of the African Union, 60% of illicit financial flows come from the extractive industry. For goodness sake, we should know what is happening in there. And that's the only thing I think is needed. And the governance issues shall grow and grow as the world gets smaller because of communication. So I think, you know, I'll leave it there. If you want me to go ahead and talk about a good brief about the Glencore and relate to what you're saying, I'll do that. But
Well, I may offer the audience an opportunity to ask a specific pointed question on the Glencore issue, and you can raise your hand if you want to address that, and you're invited to speak about it in a general way. I think I pick up, you know, the issue of the concentration of oversight in the hands of the presidency is clearly an issue. we hear that revealing disclosure of costs, which is a new provision of the EITI now, so this will be increasing scrutiny of profits on trading. What else do we need to shed light on? I mean, what other data is critical, or what kind of light or disclosure do we need to be able to avoid the kinds of issues that we had with the Glencore corruption scandal?
The special advisor from Congo made a point that they are not the traders. They are not the traders. And they will be helped if the traders are more transparent to tell them exactly how the pricing trends work. So it's very, let me just, with your permission, I think before, what is Glencore about? Glencore is a well-known trader. Between 2011 and 2019, Glencore bribed government officials in the DRC, in Ivory Coast, in Cameroon, in Nigeria. There are 6 countries that is happening. And in the most amazing way, they paid cash, they hired private jets, put money in the private jets, flew across borders, unpaid. In my country, Cameroon, they flew with a private jet from Nigeria to Cameroon and paid the refinery, which is state-owned, and SMH, which is state-owned. They paid them. I'm not supposing. I'm telling you what they admitted in court and told the court that that's what they did. They increased the prices of their expenses and the differential they used to bribe. Glencore is EITI, and so is Cameroon. So I mean, these are issues. In DRC, they bribed the courts, they bribed the auditors, if you listen to the English judge, he just said that Glencore had a culture of corruption. So I think what we have here, it is true that Glencore has gone through Damascus now, so it says, because the new chairman of board of Glencore says that the practices of Glencore were unacceptable. So we are hoping that we are seeing a new era, but the fact remains that the governance of it is key, because these traders, they have the information and the monopoly of the expertise. Okay, and they just feel, the case of Nigeria, it's amazing. Glencore gave 300,000 to a politician, knowing fully well it was bribery, through an agent, knowing fully well that it was coming from the oil. So it's, the kind of stuff like that it's a bit much. So I think in every single country, that's what happened. So of the 6 countries, to its own admission. So I think we need to have a system of governance that can make sure these countries themselves, the EIT committees in different countries, what can they do? They don't have access to the information. The tax authorities, what can they do? They don't have access to the information. So I think the elephant in the room here is these traders who must be made to be transparent in the way of doing business. It is true. I'm really impressed by the panelists who have spoken before me, especially in terms of the governance structure, especially how the workers are recruited in his country and the governance structure which they have. Because these are elements. You see, the traders can only do what they do with the complicity of those within the country. So if you have structures, governance structures within, that guarantee that you have those who do the job, who are the best, who have the merits, then you're halfway there. So therefore I think what you're saying about the traders is because they deal with people who don't know what it's about. And there stands the advantage of Angola. we have followed the news and we know the kind of reforms that's happening in Angola since the new government in that sector. So I think at the heart of it is people should see. People should see, nobody's steals in broad daylight. Okay, people should see. Look at the case of Glencore again. Can you imagine? Glencore has paid fines to the American government of $1.1 billion. The 6 countries concerned don't have a dime, and they're the victims. And guess what? None of them is complaining, and none of them is suing, because they were part of the deal. The fish can never fry themselves. So it is worrisome. And the only way you can slow this or stop it is for people to see. And when I hear the recruitment process, in certain companies, in certain countries, you have brothers, wives, families, cousins, how the hell, which is something they changed in Angola. I mean, how the hell can you function? How the hell? So these are matters that, in the side of EITI, it says clearly that the resources belong to the citizens. They should know. They should know. And I think the biggest and the best control you can have is transparency, for people to know exactly what's happening. And when they know, the whole kleptocrats will hesitate. So it is true that the traders are becoming more careful now, because everybody's talking about it, everybody's looking about it. If the head of Glencore can come out and say that what they did was unacceptable, then I think that we are making pace. And in this crossroads that EITI stands, it is essential for them to look at ways and means of putting pressure. I was in a debate this morning about the creation of International Criminal Court against corruption. I don't know, maybe, because EITI, one of the complaints is that you don't have a sanctions mechanism. And so what do? The guys go at night and bribe and come in here and sit and make long speeches about transparency. So I think it's important, therefore, for us to look for ways and means that can make people feel uneasy in these meetings. Example is post-litigation, which is Glencore again. They have a whole list of compliance that they have to do in terms of who they employ, how they employ them, their qualifications, and a whole list. And there's a supervising authority, which will last, I think, 3 years to make sure that is done. And it might be interesting, I think, for EITI to see in such a case if they can do some monitoring that is applied, because so far in the case of Glencore, yes, they have said so. In the agreement with the DRC, they have said, Glencore has said it will go ahead and apply those locally, but I don't think it's happening. So I think there's something there which I think that goes in that angle, but I don't know. But I think it would be useful for Glencore at its own level to look generally and say, well, listen, this and that other practice leaves you open to this or that, some kind of a charter that makes it easier for them. But so far, it is auto-policing, and it is very difficult to have the information you need. And I do have a key. I have some keys available, USB keys that have all the information on Glencore, the allegations, and any information. So if you're interested in getting a copy of that, I'll supply you a copy. Thank you.